or computer share screen. Okay. So this one I kind of thought of as, I think it was really good timing in terms of really kind of think or rethink the way we approach health and fitness, and the terminology that we use. And I think over the last probably 10 years, especially at the time I've been in the industry, it's kind of like gone away from what it really should be. And we've kind of lost the meaning of what health and fitness is. And we've kind of looked purely down more the aesthetic route. And looking purely at the aesthetic route actually poses a lot more issues. And there's more research coming out that more and more, especially young kids, are actually suffering from body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and it's really coming to the forefront now, considering what's been happening. But there's more and more information about what health and fitness is. So I think it's just the noise is just getting louder in terms of the information of the health and fitness in this space. Just gonna skip to the next one. So why now do we need to rethink all this? So essentially, we're in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. So it kind of gives us the opportunity to kind of stop, breathe, take a deep breath, and just kind of process what's really going on and what actually is this pandemic. It's a health pandemic, essentially. So we need to look. It's also giving us the opportunity to look at our own health status in terms of our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health, but also look at everyone's health as well in terms of the way we interact with the environment. And I think we're really missing the point that we just kind of like continue on with our normal behaviors, expecting something to change, or we're just kind of like just dropping the way I kind of see things at the moment is societal expectations are just kind of just dropping over time, where this is the time where we should actually be pulling up our pants, pulling up our socks, and really picking up our standards within the way that we live, the way we interact with the environment, and the way we interact with others as well. But I feel like that's kind of dropped by the wayside because everyone's just kind of going back to normal, even though we're in the midst of a health pandemic. So people's behavior just doesn't seem to change very drastically or enough to be like, hey, we need to do something different so this doesn't really happen again. And now with the news that's coming out, where we've seen an increase in the amount of cases, and it's slowly creeping. And I think Beijing had to go back into lockdown because they had a huge spike in terms of how many cases they had within the city. The rest of the country's fine. Potentially Victoria or even Melbourne could be like that. So we had 12 cases in the last 24 hours. We're also realizing our health and well-being is actually more important than ever. There's a lot of health and fitness experts and even doctors coming out saying that like we the individual, or our immune system, or we having a high level of well-being can actually help defeat this. And we're kind of, that Western mentality is kind of leading us to kind of faking ourselves out that, someone else will sort it out, rather than let's be the machine that sorts ourselves out. So therefore, the likelihood of someone else to get this is actually going to be quite low as well. So if everyone's really healthy and looking after themselves, the likelihood of everyone becoming sick and really ill is actually going to be low, which therefore reduces the burden on the healthcare system and reduces the burden on society. And we'll probably be able to move through this a lot faster as well. If we have poor health, or if we're actually injured, we're not able to make money to pay the bills. We have reducing happiness. And I think more and more, or I'm starting to learn this more and more now, that happiness is probably the most important metric out of everything that we do. Right? If you're not happy with what you're doing, or what you're doing majority of the time, or what you're doing a little bit of the time, you've really got to kind of reevaluate what's going on. And this is where people are kind of doing jobs or doing things that really despise. And what that's actually do is actually lead to poorer health outcomes. So if you're miserable, mentally stressed, likelihood of you to eat crap is going to be higher. You're likely to binge, watching TV to try and take the anxiety away for a short period of time. Less likely to exercise, less likely to get outside. So they're goes down the happiness metric, and which therefore affects the relationship with ourselves, others, and our environment. And it's vice versa as well. So the input of the environment will affect the individual, but also the individual's interaction with the environment can actually have a negative impact on the environment. So it kind of goes in this big old loop or cycle, and we constantly have inputs all the time. I think it's just like the biopsychosocial model as well. We focus on fixing the pathology. So the pathology is kind of like the issue or the disease or the illness or the injury that we have. So we have this Western ideology of just waiting for things to happen, then we fix it, rather than let's create the infrastructure or let's create the foundations in order for this to never happen, so we can live happily and we can enjoy everything. We don't have to fake anything. We can just feel content with who we are and what we do. And we neglect the human condition. And I think this is important because at the end of the day, if we develop some sort of resistance to something, we actually increase our tolerance over time. So what that really means is, so if we increase our resistance, say, to strength training, so we increase the resistance up over time, we increase our tolerance to weight or to be exposed to certain positions where biomechanically we're exposed and potential for injury is high. But because we've developed that resistance over time, we actually improve our tolerance to that. But that can also have a negative effect with like medication and all that as well, where if we continue to be on medication, we actually increase our tolerance to that medication over time. So that's also something that needs to be considered within this whole idea. So human resistance, we can use it to help build ourselves up, which increases our tolerance for something. So something negative that happens to us, we can actually tolerate that. Our body can deal with that. And I'll explain more when we get into my little scale. So definitions. Health is the absence of illness or injury. And this is Western ideology. So if we have no illnesses, no diseases, no injuries, we're healthy. Well, that's health. Optimal health is not a condition of an individual, but a state of interaction between self and the environment. So what that really means is basically the way we interact with ourselves and the environment, and vice versa. Fitness is the condition of being physically fit and healthy, and wellness is a state of being in good health, especially as an actively pursued goal. So wellness is something we have to continually strive for, and this encompasses the 4 spectrums of health, which we'll get to in a little bit. What's becoming the norm? Health isn't something that we can simply define as good or bad. All foods are inherently good and bad. All exercises are inherently good and bad. It all depends on the individual and the environment, so home, work, study, social life they live in. So what I mean by this is I say running is bad for most people, right? And the reason why is, if we got these 2 demonstrations, 2 examples here, this one was an absolute gem because it really illustrates this weird, wacky, mechanical issue that we're seeing at the moment in her running gait. Whilst you look up here in the top example, this is a really good example of someone who's got a really good running gait, even though she's adjusting her little belt, the angles, her toe off, her knee coming forward is illustrating that she's really got really good mechanics. With the bottom one, we know that the knee's caving in, the toes are pointing like crossways. So you can kind of see this leg is quite bowed through here. So you can see that running for her is actually bad for her. But for this lady up here, who's probably a professional, she's probably been an endurance runner all her life, or a triathlete. I think can't remember. But she's an endurance athlete, that running's good. Like, she's a good runner. So therefore running's going to be good for her. But this one is bad. So that's why I want to kind of display that everything is good and bad, but all depends on the individual and the environment that that they're in. Now, what's becoming the norm, part two. So some experts on social media are pushing products, services that lack the underpinning of positive health outcomes, and dismiss current research and lack credentials, qualifications, and experience. Because of the pandemic, more and more information is coming out on social media. So I wanted to show you guys something in terms of, I'm just going to share my other screen. So for those who don't know, I was going to get that. Oh, oops. So this is Ali Uchin. I think she was on The Bachelorette, for those, or The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Yeah, I know she's a bit dolled up in this photo, but I want to illustrate my point. So I'm going to share to my other screen. And I found her on LinkedIn. It's pretty standard. She claims she's like a health and wellness expert now. But really, she was just a TV personality. She's now a wellness blogger. She's only been doing it for just over 1 year now. She was an account manager, real estate agent, and media production coordinator. And if we flick over to her Instagram, we see a yoga, fitness, and wellness coach. She's got this wellness book on her website. She's got this Ali wellness retreats. But none of the information, there's no information. It's basically just animals, her, I don't know, doing God knows what, plugging foods. I think this was a couple where she was promoting some products. But it kind of misses the point of what health and wellness should be. She's posing like it's okay for you to post, the best parts of your life and show the world and all that jazz, but it's something that's not, I wouldn't say it's not realistic. It kind of misses the point of what health really should be or what it should entail at the end of the day. Yeah, it's not very flattering at the end of the day. Whilst we got Mr. James Smith, I think everyone, if you don't know him, that's okay. But Dave likes him. I like him as well. He's a really good guy because he basically says you don't define yourself by the way you look. You just define yourself by more the way you feel, the way you interact with yourself, the relationship that you have with yourself as well. Even though he's a good-looking cat, but he does topless shots and all that jazz. But he really pushes health as the most important thing. He doesn't support supplements. He doesn't support certain products. He just promotes a really well-rounded, healthy lifestyle where he actually talks about how the menstrual cycle really influences females in their ability to lose weight and get strong at the same time. The other thing that he illustrates really well is weight loss. He talks about weight loss a lot. Is actually just like the bank, essentially. He gives nice, clean analogies of what weight loss should be. He doesn't tell you how many calories you should be consuming. He gets you to figure it out, but he gets you to do it in a healthy way, to have a healthy relationship with your body, to have a healthy relationship with your mind, and be able to put those pieces together in order to make you as a healthy, but also have a high level of wellness, essentially. He is a PT. He's been in the industry for a very long time as well. I think he's been in the industry for about 10 years, and he's just massive around the world at the moment. Whilst Ali, she kind of just came out of nowhere. She became this wellness blogger. I know a wellness blogger is basically a term that says, I do this, and you kind of subliminally selling products or promoting certain product that I do this, you can get this product here. So she's basically a prototypical influencer. And this is probably the biggest point is health is not fixed. Health fluctuates within a range, fluctuates all the time, and it's very dynamic in nature. And when I get people coming in, it's like, oh, I'm just going to train to this point, and when I'm at this point, I don't need to do anything more. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It's like if we have a plant, an indoor plant, and it requires water on a daily basis, you're not just going to water it, put 2 liters of water and that's it. And you've got to leave it for 2 months. Like, no, you're going to drown it, and you're not going to just water it once with just a little bit. You have to keep attending to the plant. You also got to keep attending to yourself in that case. And it depends on the inputs from the environment, but also the internal state of the individual. So the inputs from the environment, so it could be the weather, where you live, your work, your family relationships. It can also be the way that or what has actually happened in the past as well. So we know between the years of 1 to 7 years, and Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this, those are the most critical years for child development, because all it is just inputs from the external environment. They just take everything on board. They're just like literally a sponge. So if a kid has any trauma between those 1 to 7 years, it just carries throughout their whole life. And that's when, and that's basically, if they do experience any trauma, it's very hard for the person to go back that far in order to try and move on or move through whatever's going on. You can transition from optimal health to ill health over a period of time. So this is where people get faked out into believing it's like, oh, if I eat, pretty crap for 30 days, I think I'll be all right and just get back in the bandwagon. It's like, no, your health will actually start to shift. Your body will begin to adapt to what you expose it to. It's not like you feel like if you eat really well, for 3 years and all of a sudden you get sick. It doesn't work like that. It's not immediately a switch. Multiple things have to happen at an asymptomatic level where you don't see it, you may not even feel it, before you actually get sick. It also means it's not something you attain and that's it. It also needs to be consistently worked on. So that's basically what I've been harping on this whole time. It's something that needs to be worked on consistently. So, like, for example, if you're healthy, 80-90% of the time, sleep's really good. You get 7.5 to 8 hours sleep. You get some deep sleep as well. Go to bed consistently at the same time. You're eating 3 meals, getting protein every single meal, getting enough protein. And if you do want to, like Kaz is doing, just having a gin and tonic at nighttime, that's fine. That's totally fine. But it's when you tip the scales the other way, you actually slide down the other end, where we actually start to potentially get some ill health or health complications as a result. And there are degrees of health and there are severity of illness. And so it's like on a scale. It's not this black and white thing. Back to the 4 spectrums of health. Now, we all need to make sure that we all have these in check. And the spiritual, back when I was learning at uni, I didn't think it was as very simplistic. Is that are you connected with yourself? Are you connected with others? That's pretty much what it is. You understand what the body's going through or what's going on and process things, or you're just trying to avoid and trying to disconnect from society and from yourself. Mental health, are you negative, you're positive? It could be something as simple as happy and sad, or happy and angry. And we know that obviously spiritual and mental have a big connection with each other. We know emotional, so despair and joy. These obviously joys, like how are you loving life? Are you really out there, showing your true colors, or just being yourself? Emotional is just despair, is basically, are you feeling down in the dumps? Do you want just wallowing in your own self-pity kind of thing? And the last one is physical. Is your body dysfunctional or is it functional? Is it moving well? Is it moving great? Can you pick up things without your lower back popping out? Or do you feel like you're one of those people that just get sick all the time, get migraines, headaches, IBS, you name it, any disease can actually be caused by being in these states as well. So spiritual, mental, and emotional states, if they're really down the bad end of the spectrum, we could actually have our body become really dysfunctional at the end of the day. And there are conditions out there where you can actually cause yourself to become sick if you think it so much all the time. but you can also make other people believe that they're sick, even though they actually display no real symptoms of an actual disease, or actually catch an actual disease from somewhere. The illness wellness continuum. So I thought this is really important to understand is health is a scale, or the wellness is really a scale. So we're constantly moving up and down. So this comfort zone is, I'd probably say, a majority of the population. So if you're going off standard deviations, so between a 4 and a 6 is where the majority of the population would probably lie at the moment. Maybe more towards the 4 than the 6, just considering what's happening. No one's exercising as much. People have been eating more food, drinking a little bit more than usual as well. When we're down the 0 end, this is like heavily in the disease state. We're on multiple medications, poor quality of life, potentially becomes limited. Body has limited function. I also put down bedbound, multiple chronic diseases, heavily dependent on others. Usually, if they've got limited function, they do require assistance. So anyone who's got some sort of multiple diseases that are really debilitating, they're going to rely on others. Then we go down to poor health. They're symptomatic, usually got to go through some sort of drug therapy, some sort of surgery. They lose normal function, so they can still do normal day-to-day stuff, go to the toilet, walk upstairs, go for walks, all that jazz, but in terms of their ability to do that consistently, say for someone who walks up a flight of stairs, they might actually get out of breath. They can actually be people that call in sick regularly, poor quality. So poor quality of work, so they could still be working at this time. They're still dependent on others, but also have poor relationship with others, and they're focusing on surviving. So you could actually carry those points across to the disease state. When we move to more this neutral state, this is where people are where this continuum says it's false wellness. People will actually again faked out into believing that there's nothing wrong. There's no symptoms, nutrition's inconsistent, exercise is just random. Health is not high priority, so they're just focusing on just surviving, just kind of like just going day to day. It's like, oh, life's okay. But they don't see I've never really been up this end. I've never really, if they were up this end, really kind of like owned that position that I got there, that things were really good. But most of the time, most people who are in this position and stay in this position usually haven't experienced what good health is, or even optimal health. As I mentioned before, they're sick infrequently, they're faked out, as I mentioned before. They're somewhat independent on others. So if they do get sick or something like that, they're more likely to rely on others, and they prioritize others first. So and the reason why I actually put this in here is I feel like this false wellness is they believe that they're okay. They have the potential to go down this poor health side, but what they tend to do is ignore the potential of them actually going down this side. So what they do is they bring the attention to someone else. So whether it's someone who's a parent looking after their kids a lot more, or kind of uses their kids as an experience in order to get out of something, or in order to prioritize themselves first. When we start looking at the good health side, we're looking at regular exercise, good nutrition, wellness education, minimal nerve interference. So this is actually talking about the vagal nerve. Karen, you probably know all about the vagal nerve from naturopath days. Usually they're rarely sick, the recovery at a pretty quick rate, and they're working on thriving and making themselves a priority. So before you can look after others, they're really looking after themselves first before they give themselves to someone else in terms of time, energy, and effort. Then the last one, we're looking at optimal health. So optimal health is 100% function, continuous development on themselves, active participation. So they're really just being involved in kind of, getting themselves totally lost track. So they're very much about the wellness lifestyle as well. or active participation. So whether it's involved with their kids, their relationships, this is actually what I mean by active participation. So their relationships are really good with their spouse, with their kids, with their parents as well. And they're really just kind of like have that social connectedness as well. They perform at a high level, they improve quality of relationships, prioritize themselves first, then help others. Now, people get this prioritization being mixed up is you can still prioritize yourself no matter what, but you don't have to spend, 3/4 of the day prioritizing yourself. You can still spend the first 30 minutes to an hour in the morning prioritizing yourself. Then you can go help others or go to work or something like that, but not making yourself immediately available to someone else. But I think the main message with all this health that we're talking about today is our health should be number one. It's not something about spending, it's not about spending a shitload of time on, but it's all about making consistent small efforts over time. And this is where people kind of forget that people think that they're busy. Really, they're busy. They're just kind of just filling up their day and ignoring the most important thing, and or more so neglecting themselves, and don't really want to start putting some small efforts and small bit of work into themselves in order to get themselves to a better space. And most people don't feel like they're worthy of getting healthier as well, which I've started to notice more and more. Why they want to get someone else healthier, but they're not willing to walk the walk themselves as well. It's something that we must continue to work on. It's dynamic nature, and it must be actively pursued goal. So we need to be constantly moving towards the right direction of looking after ourselves, but doing it in a way that we can best fit what we do, in terms of what we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or on a yearly basis, where we spend 2 weeks away or 4 weeks away on a holiday, kind of get ourselves to recharge. Then when we do come back, we're really ready to go. As I mentioned before, there's no inherently good or bad. It's all context dependent. It depends on individual needs, wants, and current capacities or capabilities. So this one was definitely more of a rant, this discussion of this topic, but it really points out, pokes a lot of holes in terms of where society is kind of going and where it kind of needs a flip back towards. So what we're going to do, is everyone on? Well, unmute everyone and we get this chat going. All right, we get Nathan.
Yeah, no, that was a really good presentation, Trent. I think you touched on pretty much every aspect of what how important health is, and what is health and what isn't health. So I thought that was really good. I think when it comes to health, I think it's different for me, but I think health is such an important thing in my life, but I think it should be in everyone's life. So I think this is a wake-up call for anyone who does watch this or part of this presentation. It's a good reminder just to see how important health is, better quality of life, and the benefits are endless. So it's a no-brainer for anyone to put more effort into looking after yourself, so you can be there for others as well. So yeah, I think you can talk about it all day, but yeah, I think benefits are endless, and just it's probably for me, but yeah.
That's good. Kaz.
Unmute. There we go. I took a few notes. I find a lot of people that I've seen, and a big number of people, don't actually realise that they're not in good health. They don't even realise they're in poor health. They think that a lot of their signs and symptoms are actually normal until something drastic happens and they seek medical help, and then you have to spell it out to them that it's not normal to feel like this. You can feel better, but unfortunately they wait until things are drastic before they do seek health. And it's such a shame, because my philosophy, of course, with health is prevent it before it gets bad. And if there's anything that you feel that's not quite right, then question it and get on top of it before it becomes a disease state. So that's one thing that I think is really interesting, that, people come to see me and they know they're unwell, but there's other things that, that I see, and they think that's just what it is and they live with it.
Yeah, I would add to that point though, is I believe that education system is leading us to this state. The reason why I say that is the amount of education we get is it health and human development? I don't know too
Health
sure.
and human,
Yeah, so that's a unit, and that unit's only promoted from year 10 to year 12. And I'm like, why isn't this being promoted from like prep to get kids to actually learn about health, learn about good food? What does, eating a carrot, what does it have? What vitamin? How does it help? Helps with vision and all that. Just my thinking is like, why don't we have this kind of like drip fed through every year level?
The other thing people say is, they've been in a certain way most of their life, and you say, well, maybe I could refer you to somebody who can help you with that. And they go, oh no, I've tried everything I possibly can. I can't do it. And I think it's all because it's really hard work for them to start with, because they're looking at this chart probably at a level 2. So to even get back to a neutral position, it's really, really hard work. And they think what they've done without any help whatsoever, like, I don't know, go for a bike ride once a month, is enough for them to feel better. And they don't understand also, because their mind is foggy and everything is a blur, they don't realise that there are professions out there can help them with all aspects of their health, not even, just a GP. It's there's heaps of different ways of doing things, and you've just got to try different things and see what suits what you want, and your time, what you've got, the time you've got in the day. But what naturopaths believe, and I think it's probably true, depending how long you've been unwell. Say, for example, if you're at maybe a level 2 or level 3 in poor health, and it's sort of, you can see the writing on the wall, when you're 70, you'll be struggling to walk. If it takes 10 years to get to that state, it will take you 10 years to get back into good health. So whatever the time it is that you've stayed or been in an unwell unwell condition, that will take that much time to get back into health. And you sort of see it like that. It's like the course of a cold. A cold goes up and down, and normally at the end, when you're actually getting better, you get this big, you feel better, and then all of a sudden the next day you feel back down and worse than you ever did. But then the day after, you're jumping around full of beans. There's always this this build of being sick before you actually feel really, really well. And people think that they're getting sick again, but they're not. But a cold, takes about 10 days to sort of build up. By the time your immune system kicks in, and then you get the really runny nose, and then it takes probably another 7 to 10 days to get over it. So 10 days to get unwell, 10 days to get better.
Yeah.
It's, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and it's actually another point as well is, our bodies can fight diseases as well. And if we're up in this good health state, or this, optimal health, that's where our body can actually work at its highest degree and actually fighting off all these diseases. And it's like you said, if you're at like a 2, the likelihood of you to get out of that disease. So if you're a diabetic, you've been diabetic for 5+ years, and you're starting to get peripheral neuropathy, it's gonna take you a long time to get out of that state. It really is. But if you're someone who's in good health, and say, I don't know, you get the swine flu or something like that, I don't know if that's still around. You get a case of swine flu, you get really bad. It only might last for a week maximum, while someone who's struck with the swine flu could be close to their deathbed if they're down at this 4. So that might actually bring you from like an 8 down to like a 3. And you're a 3, then you slowly build back up towards 7 and 8. So I think we kind of neglect that, where the disease fighting mechanism as well. We just got to make sure we're feeding the machinery in order to fight that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about all I have to say. Yeah. Yeah. The only other thing is, people rate themselves differently as well. So I would say, some people say, they're in optimal health. When you look at them and you say, no, you're about neutral. But for them, that's optimal health compared to what they've had in the past. And then the combination of everything, exercise, looking after your mind, your soul, good nutrition, all of that sort of thing comes hand in hand. But, people think that they can't do things, and they're absolutely amazing machines. Like you said, you fight disease really, really well. And some people put themselves through hell, and you think, oh my gosh, they're going to die. They're so unwell. And then they can just do a few little things which makes them feel so much better. And then as soon as they get that feeling of good health, off they go. There's no stopping them. And then, yeah.
That's good. Just as you mentioned before, is most people feel like they're at optimal health, where if you actually measure all the metrics, they're in this false sense of wellness. So that's kind of leading them to create no change at all. So there is no need. And like I mentioned in the presentation, is if they've always been in this false wellness or this false optimal health, they've never really experienced what optimal health is. They've never experienced the body running on all cylinders, total mental clarity, living pain-free, being able to have all the energy that you need, sleep like a log. They've never really experienced that. All right. We're going to go, Mum. Hang on, Mum, you're muted. There we go.
And when you brought up that alley, made me shudder for a whole range of reasons. Just so unhealthy. It's not realistic, and yeah, it's such a bad look for young women. It's just awful because it's not real, and it just goes to show what a superficial society. A lot of these what do you call them, influencers? I mean, yeah, without the experience, the knowledge, and what have you, and people just blindly follow, which is really concerning. There was something you said about get others healthy first. So how many parents might say to their kids, as an example, go to, make sure that they go to their sports. The parents flog themselves to death to make sure they get the kids to where they need to be, and yet their condition is extremely poor. But let's get our kids healthy and moving. So it's all about having the right values in your life and valuing yourself first.
No matter what, yeah.
No matter what. Yeah. Yeah, that's all.
Sure. Dave.
Oh man, I've got a big one.
Lucky enough to last.
I could go all day having a crack on about social media influencers. Yeah, absolute rant about it. Like the word itself, influencers, it suggests the idea that we influence people, and but for the greater good, probably not. We look at who they're influencing the most, especially like a girl like Ali, is they're influencing girls, which are, you know, around 50% of the population. And these girls, they pay the influencers money to receive the product, if it's a diet plan, a beauty ebook, or whatever it is, because these girls are chasing, you know, something that they can't possibly reach, which is, you know, the ideal image, whatever the ideal image is, and whether it's been socially constructed, purely for instant gratification, whereas they're purely doing it for instant gratification because of their own insecurities and whatnot. These influencers are providing these young girls or young people a sense of false hope, and that sense of false hope trickles down into things like body image issues, especially in girls who exercise too much and eat too little. They lose their period, so they lose their menstrual cycle, and that has devastating effects in teenage years, because if you lose your cycle, like, you basically mucked up everything. And additionally to that, like, poor relationship to food and poor relationship with money as well, because they're just like, take my money, fix me please. It's like, well, there's nothing to fix in the first place. Something that you wanted that you didn't necessarily. And what these body image issues lead to is these girls seeking validation. They don't need that. Why not validate yourself? Losing your period. If every single girl, or so many of these girls, lose their period, this become normalized. It's not normal to lose your freaking period. And the poor relationship with food and money is you get demonization of certain foods. So I can't have cake, I can't drink alcohol, I can't do this. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like everything in moderation. And, you know, eating certain foods or purging leads to anorexia nervosa or bulimia and chronic money issues. So they're constantly like paying people to fix them when they can't educate themselves to fix themselves. And doing stuff like we've unpacked all that. These influencers are not doing the right thing for health. It is not health. And something I've learned lately is basically a lot of females will come to trainers because they're seeking to lose weight, and a lot of trainers say, oh, I've got bloating and distension around my stomach area, and normally a trainer will turn a blind eye and they say, oh, yep, no worries, we'll get you toned down, we'll lose the weight. Then they lose all the weight, they become twigs, and the bloating extension is still there, but they haven't overlooked stuff like gynecological health and gastrointestinal issues. Are they the things? And normally, quite oftenly, is that these two things normally will fix the issue if it's screened properly. But trainers will be like, no, we'll fix you, no worries. And people like influencers as well. So yeah, that's just my little rant done. And just wanted to add as well is people who go to GPs for illnesses, so whatever it is, it's kind of like a broad topic, and there are a few exceptions to this, is that people who are unhealthy, who are overweight or high blood pressure or whatever it is, they go to the doctors and GPs and they say, give me the pills to fix me. And again, instant gratification, instant health. No, it's these pills do not work with the body, they work against it. They work against homeostasis to bring down the adverse effects of your body trying to fix itself, it's trying to function. There are a few exceptions to these, so like rheumatoid arthritis, like the body fighting against itself, we need, and like antibodies as well. Antibodies will ruin the gut's bacteria, but we sort of need it. But another topic. And I think it's going to be really interesting to think about the difference in definition of health between third world countries and developed countries, especially around their definition of health as well. So Rant done.
I think we could easily sum your thing up as the answer's in the mirror, and the guide is usually the person that's standing behind you as well. So I think that's kind of like what we do in athlete is, at the end of the day, you are the answer to all this, but we're going to be the ones who guide you through this whole process. So you actually start to learn to discover who you are, what you do, how your body responds to certain things, to get you out of pain, first of all, to get you functioning better, before we start looking at all the weight loss stuff. We actually had, this is kind of slightly bit off topic, but we had a client who previously came to me. She was seeing a PT once or twice a week, and all she did was cardio. She loved cardio, but her goal was to try and lose weight. What we started to do is, I went through the pre-exercise screen, as I do with everyone, is we started to address some real health concerns. She suffers from anxiety, sleep is really terrible. She eats 1,200 calories a day, and she's been on that diet for sustained 4 months. And as soon as we started her to kind of, I'm not going to get it. I wanted to eat at least 2,000 calories to start off with, but as we started to gradually get her to eat more and more and more, her sleep actually started to improve as a result, which actually showed us that her health is beginning to improve. Which therefore, in her head, is why am I eating more? I feel like I'm going to gain more weight. But in retrospect, she was actually beginning to lose weight. Which is the funny thing is, we are if we fix the machinery that is our body's going to be able to do what it needs to do in order to get ourselves to a certain point. And we slowly manipulate the variables to give us a desired outcome. But unfortunately, we drastically manipulate the variables, whereas calories in, how much we eat at certain times, like Dave mentioned before, which gives us certain outcomes. But as a result, she ended up, she was on the process of feeling better, moving better. She was in the process of sleeping better, having better quality of life, be able to have better relationships. But then the whole COVID thing hit, and then we just moved on. So it really just comes back down to repair the machinery first before we can start manipulating everything else. So that's it. That's it for tonight. Yeah. Keep it there. Anything you want to say, Mum?
No, that was good. Everyone, every member of Inner Athlete needs to listen to this or watch it.
Yeah, so we're actually really going to push this one. This is going to be the one we push the most. So Nathan, for you, plenty of snippets for this one. Plenty of snippets.
The snippet king.
Yeah, so we're
Put the whole thing up there.
Yeah, we'll put the whole thing up there, but we'll put little bombs, little knowledge bombs everywhere for everyone. This is probably going to be our last one for a while. We're probably going to have a little break from this as we return back to normal scheduling. But I do enjoy this format of webinars and be able to present. As we get back to more normality, we'll be able to do more presentations. So that's just my thinking for now. But other than that, we'll see everyone on the coffee chat.
Yes.
Thanks, Trent. Thanks,
Yes.
guys. Have a good night.
Great. Okay,
I'll
guys.
be there.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
That was short.
Make sure you book in.
Me?
Coaching call.
No, I couldn't today. I was so bloody busy.
Can you do Can you do Saturday?
Can I do? I haven't coached. I wanted to today, and I've had stone people putting in benches today, and I have run up and down stairs, I must admit. But
right.
God, it is a nightmare, absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So,
we're gonna try and organise either tomorrow or Saturday morning. I think the earliest one is 8 o'clock. So if you want to get in early, best to book now. The reason why is because I want to try and set up a game plan for you and Hayden whilst you're up on the mountain.
yes,
I
actually,
think we need to start strategizing that.
yeah. I think Hayden's coming home for a week, maybe. I don't know. He's got a party up here. His mate's turning 18, so that's a bit of a carrot, carrot for him.
That's good. All right. Yeah, make sure you book in. If you can't book in, just let me know and we'll try and organise another time.
Yeah, it might be Monday. Oh, you'll be busy during the day. Have you got your calendar up with coaching call or not?
On Monday, because we kind of go back to normal Monday because we've got not the sessions booked in. I can do. I do 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock on Monday. That sounds fine.
I'll send you a message later on.
Yeah. Yep. I'll text you. Cool.
Done. Talk to you later.
Hopefully I'll get in one session before now and then. Oh gosh.
No, I think you'll be fine.
I will be. Yeah, I will be.
Done.
I am sleeping well, I tell you. Out like a light.
I'll speak to you Sunday.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.